Welcome to Module 1, the Technical Writing Fundamentals. So in this module, we'll be going over what technical writing is, understanding what the role of a technical writer is, why it's important, like why is the skill set important, what are some skills and qualities that make a technical writer successful, and then we'll dive into the opportunities that you have with this new skill. All right. So, first of all, what is technical writing? It's a writing discipline that focuses on making complex subjects easier to understand. The goal is to provide relevant, accurate, and useful information to a specific user at the right time. Now, I just want to preface it that saying a user is someone like you and I who is using a particular product. And when I say product, I mean a web and mobile based software or application. In many cases that you may be working on physical products, but I feel like majority of the work that we do today is focused on software. So think about websites, think about apps that you use on a daily basis, things like Canva, things like YouTube, Instagram, Google Maps, Uber, DoorDash, your project management software at work, the HR software that you may use, the banking systems that you use. All of those things are products and they are web based, or you can access them on your phone. So that means they are mobile based. All right. So, what is technical writing not? So, a lot of people tend to mistake technical writing as copywriting, coding, marketing, blog writing, grant writing, proposal writing, public relations. All of these are different disciplines of writing, but they're not necessarily technical writing. You can use technical writing to help you create these types of deliverables, but it is completely different. For example, and I'll quickly go over the slight differences in these disciplines. Copywriting is mostly what you see on sales pages. So when you're trying to sell something or market something, you tend to use copywriting skills. Coding, you tend to have a programming language like HTML, Python, and so forth. Marketing, again, it's more like the advertising messages. You're trying to sell something or increase brand awareness. Blog writing, it doesn't have to be technical at all. It could be on any particular subject. And just because you wrote a blog about the tech industry doesn't mean you're doing technical writing, okay? Remember in the previous slides, I talked about technical writing being the discipline of making complex subjects such as software products and applications easier to use and understand, okay? So it's not the same as writing what's happening in the tech industry, for example, on a blog. Then there's grant writing. If you are trying to get money for a particular cause or organization, you may want to uh, win some grants. It's not the same as technical writing. The same as proposal writing. If you are trying to get your company to win the opportunity to work with an organization, an agency, and you're writing proposals about what you can potentially do, that is completely different from technical writing. And then public relations is along the lines of increasing brand awareness, sending out messages about a particular company, brand, or product that you want the press and the media to know about. Again, totally different from technical writing. So now that we know what technical writing is not, well, what does a technical writer actually do? So these are the things that technical writers get paid to write. So I'll start from the left and go counterclockwise. So standard operating procedures. Now these are very step-by-step tutorial-like procedures that you typically see on the job. And they are a repeatable process for people to follow when they're doing particular type of task at work. Product specifications, or API, and API stands for Application Programming Interface. So these are more of behind the scenes of how a particular product works. So think about um, the Google Maps, like how that interface actually works behind the scenes. That would be its API. And other companies can use that particular API to integrate with their technology. Okay, so let's say that maybe the subway system wants to use Google Maps API so that they can connect like the locations of where the subways are. That would be a great example. And then specifications is usually how a product works. So think about your computer, the behind the scenes, like how the memory works and all of that. It gives you the specs, right? Um, and then the bottom left is user experiences and content design. Now, this is a sweet spot, particularly in today's industry. The way that you navigate a website or an app or a digital product is designed intentionally. Think about when you go shopping on Amazon, or if you are ordering some food online, the way that you navigate the website is an experience, and we call that the user experience. And content design is where a lot of technical writing skills come to play because it explains how you use the website, the digital product. Okay. So, this is the sweet spot in today's industry. And we have seen roles like technical writing branch off into user experience type roles, such as UX writing, user experience writing. And we've also seen the roles evolve into content design, which is basically the same thing, but you look at it from a words perspective, and content equals words in the tech industry. So all the words that you see on the navigation of a website, the buttons, the messages, all the words that you see on the apps and websites, that is content. And how you get those messages across without trying to sell, without getting into product specifications, just focused on the user experience and how you want them to go through the site. That is designing a user experience. All right. And then going to the bottom right, we have software or product instructions. So think about project management software that you might use, or HR software that you might use at work, where you have to upload your details so that you can get your paycheck or your 401k information. Like, there are specific instructions that you have to follow. Similarly with your bank, right? When you open an account, when you set up direct deposit, there are specific instructions you have to follow. And a lot of the times those instructions and those forms are created by technical writers. Then moving up, help center or knowledge base articles. So whenever you're using an app or software and you don't know how to do something, or you feel a little bit stuck, most companies have a help center area or a knowledge base area where you can go and follow a set of really specific instructions. So let's say you are using Microsoft Word and you get stuck you get stuck doing something, you can typically go to the help area and it will give you a set of instructions. So that type of content is created by a technical writer. And then in the top right, we have user interface copy. Again, those are the buttons and the words that you see on the surface, front facing. So it's not behind the scenes like the specifications, it's what you see. So when you look at, for example, your bank, and all the words that you see that it says name, address, bank account information, like all those labels and micro messages, all the options that you have to choose from, that is what is referred to as user interface copy. All right. So these are the things that tech writers get paid to do, which is really cool and really fun. So let's talk about what these roles, like what is important about these roles. And I have had the privilege of being each and every one of these roles that you see here today, and they are all related, okay? And it just depends on the company and the industry and the type of work that you will be doing, that your title will basically change. So, but this is a general guideline of what each of these roles do. So let's go down the column starting from the left with the technical writer. Typically writes instructions for a product and make it easier to understand. The products are typically software, or in some cases, they can be hardware or physical products. The people that you tend to work with as a technical writer are subject matter experts, meaning people who have really in depth knowledge about a particular product. You tend to work with engineers as well. Um, let's see. The deliverables that you typically have to produce at work are instructions, SOPs, help center articles. Now, the second column, UX, stands for user experience, which we talked about earlier, and UI refers to user interface, which we also talked about earlier. So I've had the title of a UX writer. Some companies call them UI writer. There are many different variations. But this one focuses more on the micro copy side of things. So you write the interface copy for web and mobile based applications. And a lot of the times it's mostly focused on the app side of things. So again, these are the main products, the web based and mobile based apps. And then you typically work with an experience designer or an interactive designer or a UX designer in this particular role. And again, the deliverables, you tend to have to come up with ideas for buttons and menus and options and messages and tooltips and so forth. And we'll learn more about these deliverables as you go through the course. And then on the last column here, and it's certainly not the least, okay? This is a current title I have, which is a senior content designer. When I worked at Google, my title was a content strategist. And I actually did all of these responsibilities and worked on all of these types of products when I worked at Google. And all these different companies, it just kinds of, they all meld together. So in the content designer side of things, you typically are designing an experience from end to end. So, for example, if I'm designing the membership program for Best Buy, I have to think about the entire experience and what the customer will see. So it's not just the micro copy, it's not just the instructions, it's what they will see on the website. What will they see when they log into their dashboard? What will they see when they sign up? What will they see when they cancel their membership? Like the entire experience. And you are basically thinking along the lines of the user's journey. All right. And the products you typically tend to work on are websites, and software applications are typically common for this type of role, but it could be for apps as well. You could be designing an experience for an app. And in this one, you also work with experience or interactive designers, PMs, product managers, because they are the ones who kind of focus on what features they want to launch for a particular product. You also tend to work a lot more with researchers, people who gather information from users and buyers and customers and so forth. So, and again, in any of these roles, you could be working with all types of people, but this is just to give you an idea. And again, last but certainly not least, is the deliverables for a content designer is different forms of copy best suited for the user. So I could be working on microcopy. I could be, writing information about the product. I could be writing instructions, help center articles, all the things. All right. It just varies based on the company. Now, what can you expect to get paid in these types of roles? So, I wanted to show you how much has grown in just the last couple of years, even post COVID. All right. Look at some of these salaries, they have almost doubled. All right. And this is ranging from little to no experience. Back in 2021, it was around 62,000, and now you can see it's around 100,000. Now, if you are an absolute newbie, you may not be able to start out with six figures, but just know that it is very possible for you to get there. So I would say aim for a mid-range, maybe in the $70,000 to $80,000 range as a very beginner person, professional. If you have some experience, maybe you discover that you have some experience doing this type of work, even though it hasn't been your title, then you might be able to demand a higher salary, right? If you've been a product manager, for example, or you've been a communication specialist at a previous time or something relevant, you might be able to see salary ranges between 116 and 125. And then if you have more experience, meaning you've been in the workforce for several years, roughly 10 years or so, you could see 10 years or less, let me just say. These are the averages. And again, it all depends on the industry, the company, your negotiation skills, but just wanted to give you an idea of what you can aim for. So I would say a good starting point would be between 2021 and 2023 salaries, all right? So let's get into what type of skills are needed for this type of role and what qualities companies tend to look for, just so that you feel prepared and know what to focus on as you go through this course. And if you want to supplement the course content with other trainings and research and books and things. So again, I will start from the top left. Number one is simplifying information. It is very easy to make things more complicated than they are. It takes a very special skill set to make things simple and easy to understand and still clear enough, right? Because you don't want to make it too simple where people um, make it seem easier than it is, or there's a lot of information missing, right? There's a fine art in being able to make information easier to understand. The next one is asking questions. You have to be curious and you have to be okay with not knowing everything. And that's really a good spot to be as a technical writer, because many times the people that you are writing for are beginners. So you want to be able to communicate to beginners, right? And that starts with asking questions, especially asking subject matter experts, engineers, product managers, all of those people we talked about that you will likely be working with. You have to know how to ask them questions. You also have to know how to put yourself in the user's shoes and ask users questions, right? Then the next one we have is mapping content needs. So when you think about where a customer is, what information do they need in this moment, right? Based on where they are. And that leads me into defining the user journey. So if I am in the shopping cart of an experience, the information I need to see there is completely different than if I'm browsing a product, for example, right? So learning how to define the user journey is super important. And this again goes back to the user, putting yourself in their shoes and figuring out where they are and what they need help. And that is the most important skill set. And it it is a skill set where I think I've been able to thrive in my career and sets me apart from so many other tech writers is that I always try my best to understand the user and put myself in their shoes. So understanding your user, what they're thinking, what do they need before they get started, what do they need while they're working through the website, what do they need afterwards, where are some of the roadblocks, like all of these things will work together to help you develop strong skills and have a successful career as a tech writer. Now let's talk about the skills that you don't need. And that would be programming languages. You do not need to know any. I don't know any, okay? Even though I have written API type of software where I had to take pieces of code and copy them into the instructions. I didn't know what that code meant, but as long as I was able to communicate to the user that this is the code that you need to get your job done, that was the most important thing. Number two, you do not need to have a technical background. Contrary to popular belief, you do not have to have a previous experience in the specific industry that you're writing about. I have been hired to write about advertising with Google. I never had an advertising background. I've been hired to do retail with Best Buy. I don't have a retail background. I've been hired to do finance, software finance. I don't have a background in finance. All of these things I did not have an experience, a background in. My skill set, right? That pie chart that I showed you earlier, that this is my skill set. This is what I focused on. Okay. And that is why they hired me. And then this one, a lot of students like to email me and DM me asking about these things where there's all these authoring software and tools, and a lot of companies have them in their job descriptions. I ignore those because at the end of the day, I just need to be able to write, right? Words. And you can write words in Microsoft Word. You can write them in Google Docs. You could write them in a presentation. I don't need to learn fancy software. Now, if you want to supplement your knowledge with these tools, it will be helpful, but just know that it is not always required. And these are some of the things that you can learn on the job. All right. So let's talk about why anyone should get into tech writing. And we've touched about this a little bit in the welcome, but again, this is an in-demand and progressive role. As we do more and more with technology, even with AI, the need to make things easier to understand will always be there. It doesn't matter how complex things get. Someone needs to break things down and make it easy, okay? And relatable. And that is where tech writers come in. This type of work applies to all industries, not just the tech space, in the healthcare space, in finance, in advertising, in marketing, retail. All industries want their websites and their apps to be easy to use and understand. They want their products to be easy to use and understand. So this demand is not slowing down anytime soon. You also have the opportunity to work remotely. I know a lot of us like to have some flexibility as far as the work-life balance or life-work balance. And for those of you who are in your soft life era, I feel like this type of work is very supportive of that type of lifestyle. And then in terms of flexibility with how you work for a company, you could work as a W-2 if you want. You could work as an independent contractor for the company, or you can hire yourself, which is what I do, and then have companies hire my company. Okay. And I've done all three, and I don't prefer one over the other. Well, I prefer being a contractor for several reasons, but if you are looking to get certain benefits and certain equity and stuff like that, W-2 might be the better route. So, but just know that in this type of career, these options are more available than they are for other types of positions. Now, when I think about writing, I know a lot of people have come to me wondering if it's like freelance writing. And I'm like, no, it's not. Right? I am not on Fiverr or Upwork or any freelance sites looking for work. I typically get my contract roles or job opportunities from larger corporations. That want me to be a part of their team. It's usually not a one and done type of thing. I don't feel the need to have multiple clients. If I want to, that option is available to me because like I said, I can work as an independent contractor and have multiple clients. But if you don't want to and you only want to work for one company and be done and still make great money, this is an option for you. You don't get paid by the word, which a lot of freelancing writers do, where you have to write, an article that's this amount of words long. That's not part of tech writing at all. And this is something that these skills, even if you decide to go in a different field, right? If you become a product manager or if you become, um, you know, um, accountant or whatever, the skills that you learn in this course are going to help boost your career. So nothing is wasted. Your time, your investment, your energy is not wasted with the skills that you learn today. So regardless of where your career takes you, tech writing is valuable to you. All right, so this is a little bit more about the outlook, what you can expect to see in this space over the next few years, and we've seen this in the salary side of things where the salaries jumped quite a bit. So we went from like $37 per hour, more so around like the $50 per hour type of salaries as we saw in those six figures. And then the amount of jobs, it's expected to grow 6% every year. And this was back in 2021. Currently, those numbers are definitely going to increase. And especially with technology evolving as quickly as it is, we can expect to see even higher job growth in technical writing roles. And what I want to do is just basically show you what it looks like when you have this skill set. Recruiters are reaching out to you, will be reaching out to you on LinkedIn with opportunities. And this is what it looks like for me from different types of industries and companies. So here you can see it's a healthcare company, healthcare simulation, right? That's an industry I haven't even heard of. They were interested in hiring a technical writer. Google is definitely still hiring, right? GoDaddy, they are hiring and they use the job title of copywriter, but it was more similar to a technical writer type of role. Microsoft, right? These are top huge companies and they are in the cloud and AI space. And they were hiring at the time for $75 per hour for an 18-month contract. Okay. So so that wraps up module one. And when you get back into Teachable, you can take a quiz, and that will help you get ready for module two. All right.